For centuries, we've kind of laughed off alchemy as this goofy quest to turn lead into gold. But what if it was something way more than that? What if it was a complex symbolic language designed to hide some really profound truths? Truths about chemistry, the human mind, and even the soul itself. Today, we're going to decode one of these super strange texts to uncover its hidden layers. Okay, let's dive in.
So our journey kicks off with this parable from the 1600s. It starts with the wanderer, just walking through a forest, thinking about how tough life is. We've all been there. He decides he's just got to push forward, no matter what. And right away you can tell this isn't just a walk in the woods. This is the start of a quest.
So after walking for a good long while, he stumbles on this group of wise old men. And they're talking about a great and lofty mystery hidden in nature, something God only reveals to a special few. Well, of course, the wanderer is hooked. He asks to join them, but they tell him not so fast. First, he has to prove himself.
And his test? Oh, just to take down a huge, ferocious, ancient lion. No big deal. But then, in this sudden burst of confidence, he actually does it. He grabs the beast, drains its blood, which is described as beautifully red, and then he dissects it. And get this, its bones are white as snow, and there's way more bone than blood. The old men are watching, and one of them says, "Okay, but he has to bring it back to life, or he can't join us."
Okay, so leaving that behind, the wanderer suddenly finds himself on this incredibly high, narrow wall. Super dangerous. There's a figure on his right leading the way, but then another voice from the left, and he can't tell if it's a man or a woman, says their path is better. So he switches sides, which he immediately regrets, but somehow he manages to get down safely.
So at the bottom of the wall, he finds a locked garden. And inside, there's a beautiful maiden in white satin and a young man in scarlet walking hand in hand. They announce they're going to get married and, well, enjoy the pleasures of love. The wanderer watches as they're led into a crystal chamber, which then gets sealed shut. And inside, the couple dies, dissolves into water, and just putrefies. All right, so let's recap. We've got a dead lion that needs to be revived, a scary high wall, and a royal couple melting in a glass box. I mean, it sounds like a total fever dream, right? But this isn't just nonsense. This is a very carefully built code, and to crack it, we're going to need 3 different keys.
Our first key comes from psychoanalysis, back in the early 20th century. This whole school of thought basically argued that our myths, our dreams, all these strange stories, they're not really about the outside world. They're actually maps of our inner, unconscious lives.
So from this point of view, the whole parable is a drama playing out deep inside the human psyche. Every single character, every event, is a symbol for our most primal and often our most forbidden impulses. The raw stuff that civilization tries to tame?
Now with this key, the story's code starts to break wide open. That big ferocious lion, that's a symbol for the father figure, the powerful rival. So killing him represents that classic Oedipal desire to get rid of the father. The locked garden becomes the mother's womb, and the wedding between the red youth and the white maiden, well, that represents the forbidden incestuous wish. And the story ends with a new king being born from their union, which is the wanderer symbolically recreating himself with the mother.
So, yeah, the big takeaway from this first interpretation is that the whole story is a symbolic journey. It's a trip into the unconscious to act out these deeply repressed desires, wishes that are just too shocking for the conscious mind to even think about, all hidden away in a fantasy tale.
But hold on, because that's only one layer. Our second key reveals that this psychological drama is also a detailed, step-by-step recipe for the alchemical great work. The language is just as symbolic, but here, the goal is a very real transformation.
You see, philosophical alchemy wasn't really about getting rich. It was about taking a first matter, some raw material, and perfecting it through a cycle of death and rebirth. The whole idea was that for something new and perfect to be created, the old thing had to be completely and utterly destroyed first.
And this is where it gets really cool. The events in our story map perfectly onto the 3 main stages of the great work. The killing of the lion and the couple dissolving in the chamber, that's the nigrido, the blackening stage, death and decay. The appearance of the lion's pure white bones, that's the albedo, the whitening, purification. And the red blood of the lion and the new king at the end being ruddy, that's the rubedo, or reddening, the final stage of perfection. It's a perfect match.
Now, this wedding is absolutely key, because alchemists believed all matter was made of two opposing principles. Sulfur was the red masculine principle, represented by our youth in scarlet, and quicksilver was the white feminine principle, our maiden in white satin. Their marriage in that sealed vessel is the chemical union of these two forces. It's the essential step to creating the Philosopher's Stone.
So you see, the parable is working on a whole other level. For an alchemist, it's not just a subconscious fantasy. It's an instruction manual hiding a secret chemical formula right out in the open. Every bizarre little detail actually corresponds to a specific step in the lab.
And this leads us to our third and final key. If this alchemical work is all about transformation, what is the ultimate thing being transformed? This is where we get to the anagogic or spiritual interpretation, the deepest meaning of what they called the royal art.
This quote from an alchemist named Œdipus really says it all. The true laboratory isn't some workshop filled with beakers and fires. The true first matter that needs to be perfected is the alchemist's own soul. The entire great work is really an allegory for inner spiritual growth.
So in this anagogic reading, every chemical process, every psychological drama becomes a symbol for an ethical and spiritual journey. It's about transmuting the base metal of our own flawed human nature into the gold of spiritual enlightenment.
From this spiritual perspective, the symbols transform one last time. Killing the lion is no longer about your dad. It's about conquering your own selfish ego, what the mystics called the old man. The wedding isn't a chemical reaction anymore. It's the unio mystica, the mystical union of the purified soul with the divine. And the reborn king? That's the result. The regenerated spirit, literally born again into a higher state of being.
And this is the real secret, isn't it? The ultimate goal was never to make physical gold, which can be corrupted anyway. It was to achieve an incorruptible state of wisdom, peace, and inner perfection. The real treasure was a transformed self.
So, there you have it. One bizarre story with three complete interwoven layers of meaning. It's a psychological drama, a chemical recipe, and a spiritual roadmap. I mean, that is the genius of alchemical symbolism.
This final table just lays it all out so perfectly. The lion is, at the same time, the father, the raw chemical material, and your personal ego. The wedding is an incestuous fantasy, a chemical reaction, and a divine union. The treasure they're all looking for is wish fulfillment, the Philosopher's Stone, and spiritual perfection. All of these meanings exist at the exact same time, in the exact same text. It's incredible.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If a single, strange story from centuries ago can hold so many layers of meaning, what about the symbols and the stories that shape our own lives? What deeper patterns might be playing out just beneath the surface of our own awareness?
You know, these incredible historical texts are just amazing windows into how people have seen the world and themselves for centuries. If you want to dive into more primary sources just like this one, you can explore the huge digital library over at Project Gutenberg. Thanks for watching.